Tell us a little bit about yourself and what qualifies you to take on the role of mayor, and if elected, what your highest priority would be.
Okay. Academically, I have a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science. I have a master's degree in education. I'm a former Spanish educator. I did a master's thesis in Hispanic immigrant acculturation. I have a good working knowledge of the United States Constitution and my own personal copy of it. So I understand the civil rights and understand things. I also, having lived in poverty for the last 10 years, I understand the struggles that people are going through. I come from a working class family. My father was a crane operator. Okay. So from my academic background, and I've also run for office twice. I've run for Congress in 2016 and county mayor back in 2018. This is my third time on the ballot. So I have a good working knowledge of government and what it takes to get things done. Also, I fully understand the hurt and struggle going on in many people's lives today. I make $10.50 an hour right now. I have a disability. And during the pandemic, I can see it firsthand because working at the hospital, even in the cafeteria, one, I understand the precautions, and I also understand the economic impact of the virus. For example, if visitation being cut down at the hospital, that affects hours they can schedule us and thus our pay. So there are many, many people in the city and everywhere that are affected by the pandemic. So I believe that we need strong labor protection to protect our pay and our housing and our food security. So given my academic background and my real life experience, I believe I have the knowledge and the first-hand experience to become the next mayor because I can really understand the insecurity of housing, insecurity of food, the insecurity of jobs, and even what it's like to have COVID ravage your entire family. And trying to get access to vaccinations, trying to get access to shots and testing and so on and so forth. So a lot of the pain and struggles that many people are facing, I face every day. As a working American and as a frontline worker, I understand.
Thank you. We're going to start with questions about the budget. The first one is that the city's estimated to lose about $8 million in revenue due to the COVID-19 pandemic in the 2021 fiscal year. So assuming that trend continues, which it looks like it will, into the fiscal year 2022, as mayor, how would you balance that budget as under the continued stress of COVID?
Well, it comes to priorities. Human life and health and well-being must be forward. If anything needs to be cut, that will never be, because the money belongs to the people of Chattanooga, i.e. the taxpayer. So we must continue to support our people when it comes to housing assistance, food assistance, rental assistance, and human needs. Also, of course, the federal government is supposed to be working on different aid packages to replenish that. So working closely with our federal government and our lawmakers to make sure we get our fair share of any relief money that's coming to the federal government. Because of the previous aid packages, we're supposed to include state and local government. So we need to work closely with our federal officials to make sure whatever funds are available, that we're able to receive those as well.
And also following up on a COVID-19 question, as we near a year since the virus's first case was detected in Chattanooga, businesses and individuals have struggled as a result of the economic fallout. How would you provide aid to those businesses and families who've been hit the hardest by the pandemic's economic impact? And are there programs in place that you would want to keep? And are there any other programs that you would want to create or add?
Well, I guess cutting out the middleman and cutting out a lot of the restrictions and all the bureaucratic red tape. I think as a mayor, I would be more hands-on, and giving direct aid to people because some cities actually just send out stimulus checks to citizens. So I would want to take a more direct role because getting bogged down in agencies, phone calls, um, people seem to get lost in the mix, but also income restrictions and so on. So we don't put a lot of restrictions and ask a lot of questions of big business when we help them. So why are we doing the same to individuals? So streamlining the process, okay? And also, I also want to have an account of every business that got bailout money, that collects rents, that collects mortgages and stuff like that. Because how can they ask us for rent when they've already got assistance from the government? So I want a full audit of what aid these agencies and companies have gotten so that they're dealing fairly and squarely with the general public. I think that's very important, is transparency when it comes to that. But I do want to streamline the process. I do want to work toward eviction moratoriums, or and rent forgiveness and mortgage forgiveness, utility forgiveness. Because if they're getting federal monies to compensate for loss of revenue, they should be giving us a break. And we need a mayor that comes from the working class that will hold them account and make them testify before the council how much money they have received in aid, so they're not double dipping from the public and the government.
Thank you. We're going to switch to a slightly different topic, but also budget related. Paving and transportation consistently rank at the top of citizens' concerns, according to annual studies done by the city of Chattanooga. So what transportation or infrastructure goals would you have if you are elected mayor?
As someone who rides the bus, I don't have a car. I see this firsthand. Okay. See, what's going on now is they run on a Saturday only schedule. And what's happening is it cut out a lot of the lines to a lot of the needed areas. So I would like to see the Carter buses return to full schedules and expand those. Okay, so and also, like for example, like run the same amount of time 7 days a week, and because they'll cut off early. Because I'm a bus driver, so you need a mayor that actually rides the bus and has to deal with this. Like for example, like if I get off work later in the night and buses have already stopped at 7 o'clock, I can't get home on Sunday night. So we're going to expand bus routes to run as late as possible 7 days a week, so everyone has access to public transit 7 days a week. And we need to go back to regular schedule. We need to even make changes so no bus is cut off on any given day. Okay, we need to go back to that. Also, the drivers want a new bus hub downtown. But as the drivers have explained to me, because I talked to the bus drivers, I talked to passengers, the city will veto whatever the corridor wants, and the developer will get that spot. Well, I'm not going to sell it to developers. So I want to make sure Carter gets a bus hub downtown, because we're standing out in the cold as it is. Also, the bus drivers want to be treated like frontline workers and make sure they get vaccine and testing like the rest of us. Because I work at the hospital, I got my shots because I'm a hospital worker. But the bus drivers need on the front line of this also need that same status. So to protect them. Okay. So there's a lot of things we need to do, and I also want to see as things progress, a 21st century public transit rail system like other cities have, because we're like a century behind with our buses as they are. So being a mayor that rides public transit, I will be an advocate for public transit, as opposed to mayor candidates who don't ride the bus. Okay, it's a forethought because the buses move people and goods and services more than anything else. And there needs to be safe places to catch the bus, because there are many areas of town that are not pedestrian friendly, nor are they safe to get to the bus or cross the street. So we have to make the city safe for public transit, users, and we have to expand the bus routes back to the normal levels and even make improvements beyond that point.
Thank you for that answer. We're going to switch now to a few questions about business and the economy. The first of which is that city labor unions and many activists support a $15 minimum wage for city employees. Andy Burke had intended to begin implementing that before COVID, but that caused some budgetary problems. Do you support this, or any other specific pay increases for city employees? And if you could explain why or why not.
Absolutely, yes. We do need to expand city pay. $15 because my brother is a city worker. So I have, and I have a nephew and nieces that live on his salary. So it's personal to me. Okay. Yes. So when I ran for Congress and county mayor, this was the pay protocol that I ran on. Okay. And it was in the papers in the time past. I believe in unions for all lines of work. $15 minimum wage, city workers and every worker, 20 for skilled labor work, $10 table server plus tip wage. Now, because there's many different lines of work, right? So we can't leave anybody out. One of my supporters was a truck driver, a $15 log hour for truckers, okay? And then a 40-hour wage protection with overtime differential for salary workers, because if you're on salary, they can work as many hours as they want, pay the same. So we need protection for all types of work, as well as medical, dental, vision, life, and disability insurance, paid FMLA for maternity, paternity, and COVID-related issues, like a few days for test results or a week for quarantine. We need strong labor and financial protections for all lines of work.
So related to that, in 2019, 40% of Chattanooga households were considered cost burdened, meaning that they pay more than 30% of their income for housing and may therefore struggle to pay for other necessities. How would you address affordable housing as mayor?
My answer to the previous question is how you address affordable housing means zero until you address the wage and income inequality. So refer back to my previous answer of the Fair Wage Initiative protocol that, as we know, the real money is in the private sector. Unionize all lines of work so they pay us a living wage so we can afford to live. Also, the COVID pandemic has put many people out of work. So once was affordable is no longer, because what's unemployment, $275 a week, and with a plus up that ebbs and flows with Congress. So the pandemic has made what was once bad now worse. As a mayor, I will fight to unionize all lines of work. Okay, because the big, what's hazard pay too. The big businesses cannot cut our wages because of the pandemic. We must fight. Because my slogan is essential workers unite. We have to come together. It's on my sign. Okay, so we the people have to come together around an agenda to protect our wages, that they cannot cut us below 40 hours. We have to raise the wages so we can afford housing. That's another thing. So, because what is affordable? Well, $7.25 minimum wage. So, and what's affordable if you're homeless and have no money? So how do you make housing affordable if someone has no money? That, so, and they ask me for $5, which I'll give them if I have it, to go buy some food. So we're going to house all the homeless, feed all the homeless, protect all the workers. Okay. How do you make housing affordable? By paying everyone a living wage. Okay. By making sure every resource is available from every level of government, so no one is without rent help. Okay. The executive order said that you can refuse a job if he exposes you to COVID. It's not true. So by protecting the people in their wages, in their housing, and providing food out to those who have not, and keeping those who are on the verge of losing home and food, making sure resources are available so they can have that. And by holding the business community, the landlords, the rental companies, more accountable. If you get government money, you must account for it against what you're holding your renters responsible for. So accountability and protection for the common people.
A number of Chattanoogans are experiencing homelessness. How would you further the city's progress toward reducing homelessness if you're elected mayor?
Well, a lot of states have the shelter in place. So what we're going to do is basically offer shelter to everyone who has no home. I once given this idea, homelessness to work idea. Well, basically, it's like forming homeless people. We'll find all the homeless people, and we're going to find them shelter. City's going to pay any available space. Permanent housing. We're going to house everybody. If we have to go out ourselves and get a bus and pick them all up, some that are in wheelchairs, and find them a permanent place to stay and never throw them out. We need to make all the shelters 24 hours. And I don't care what you're doing. We also, we're talking about adults here, don't do this, do that, be home at a certain time. No. Treat them like adults. Okay. So, and also some of them are fighting for disability. So we need to fast track their cases if they're homeless. So work with our legal system and so on and so forth. Because I was walking home the other night, I met a homeless guy waiting on his disability, sitting in a wheelchair, shivering in the cold. I saw him just the other night on my way home. And this is a travesty. So we're going to house and feed everybody in Chattanooga. No one will be without home or food under my watch, ever.
So downtown Chattanooga, which was once a showcase, people from other cities came here to kind of study the revitalization story of Chattanooga. But downtown is now struggling to hold on to businesses. How can that be improved? What factors have made downtown less appealing to businesses, do you think? And do you think that the business improvement district is a good thing? Or do you support it or not support it?
Well, when you determine how well a business is doing, you look at it by how we're doing. Because the CEO to worker salary is a 300-to-1 ratio. So I want to improve the living condition of the working person. So the businesses downtown, we need to have supports for those businesses, but not so the owners can get and stay rich. So that the working people can make a living wage, because they're building their dreams too. But it's a nightmare. Okay. So I'm always people focused, labor focused. So when you talk about the businesses downtown, I'm thinking about the people that work in the businesses downtown, making sure that the owners pay them a living wage. And so, and through unions, democracy in the workplace, to make sure those workers have a living wage like I described. Those workers have health care that they can utilize, okay? Because access to health care without money, it's useless to you. So we must protect the working people of downtown. Yeah, small business is the key, but the wealth is the wealth of the 99%, not the 1% that I'm most concerned of when it comes to any kind of business.
So moving on to the issue of public safety, Chattanooga saw a very sharp increase in gun violence in 2020. How would you as mayor work to lower violent crime rates in the city?
How many people remember the new law allowing guns to be licenses to be acquired online without any sort of testing, right? So I'm going to go to Nashville, and I'm going to lay the feet. I'm going to lay all of these deaths at Bill Lee and the state General Assembly's feet. Look, folks, if we're talking about the Second Amendment, we better read it as it's written and teach it as written. You cannot address gun violence when you can get a gun permit online. And that's a state policy that interferes with the work of the cities. So through democracy, we have to get on a ballot, run for office, and we also, I'm going to challenge the General Assembly and every lawmaker that voted for this. I know a few of their names because you guys did a story on who voted for this and who didn't vote for it. Every death in Chattanooga, I'm going to lay at their feet, because you cannot address gun violence if it's easier to get a gun. Okay? And we also have to address education. Now, also, we have to show some leadership, because changing all the laws there are is not going to change the heart of men and women. So we, the people, have to come together, to fight for nonviolence and say, look, we are going to choose to lay our arms down. This is leadership, talking to the people, solving your problems with gun violence. Okay. The people have the power to change that. However, when it comes to the socioeconomic issues that breed gangs, that's generations of wealth deprivation from the inner city. That can't be solved overnight, but by acknowledging where the problems lie. Socioeconomic and economic deprivation in the inner cities, and the gun stores, gun manufacturers, money and politics that have bought all our politicians, and thus we have that law. And we have preachers that these politicians attend. They will not challenge them because they like the Christian lifestyle. We must challenge the clergy. We must challenge the legislature. We must challenge conservative politics. We must challenge education, not teaching us the Constitution as it's written. So this whole mindset around guns has got to change. That's going to take a lot of leadership and a lot of courage. But I will go to Nashville and I would testify and tell them, this law is costing my city's lives. You need to change it. The blood is on your hands, Billy.
So activists spent the summer in Chattanooga and across the country protesting police brutality across the country. And I said that already. Anyway, protesting police brutality. And one of their key demands was for either defunding or divesting from the police. Would you consider defunding or divesting from the Chattanooga Police Department, or would you consider any reforms? And if so, what type of law enforcement reforms would you consider?
Yes, my platform does address this, police accountability. Point one. Now, when it comes to budgeting, is it the business and corporate interest in policing or the people interest? Because the officers that I spoke to, kind of like the military, all that military funding goes to contractors, not in their pockets. Well, why are they moonlighting at the hospital if they get paid enough? So, and I say, okay, would you rather us buy new cars every year, or rather us, because I see officers at the hospital all the time, or would you rather put that money into your paycheck? So we need to have a people-focused budget. You can take 15% off the top and take all the pork out and still support the wages, healthcare, and benefits and of officers, which should never take away. The human beings in uniform, okay? Now, for police accountability, the problem is that we have internal affairs under the jurisdiction of the chief right now. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to find a new police chief, preferably a female of color. We're going to get a new city attorney. I'm looking for a civil rights lawyer, not a corporate attorney. We're going to write a new policy. And it's going to state that any manner of police misconduct, violations of civil rights will be remanded to my office or the city attorney's office. Okay. And we will take action independent of any police interference, though, because the essence of Black Lives Matter is respecting the First Amendment right to petition your government for redress of grievances suffered. 100 years old, 10 years old, or just yesterday. Because at some events I attended, they had this most wanted list and they were officers. Okay. And I promise them, if elected, we're going to look into this stuff. So there are three platform tenets I have. One is police accountability. We need leadership changes, policy changes, and we do need to realign take 15% off the top of the police budget and put it into housing, food, shelter, but we can't skimp on things like wages, healthcare, benefits, mental health, training for police. Okay, so we can't skip on the budget when it comes to the human beings in uniform, but the corporate apparatus in policing, a lot of the pork, there are ways to cut that back. So when we talk about police budgeting, you got to really think about what you're discussing. But we should invest in training, healthcare, wages, benefits, pensions. And I have a pocket copy of the Constitution, and I want to make sure every officer has one of these and reads it, because it's important. Understanding our civil rights, because you cannot enforce the law by breaking the law. So accountability and support are big keys to move forward with police.
Now, I think you kind of answered this next question in your previous answer, but many activists and some candidates have called for the removal of current higher-ranking Chattanooga police officers, including Chief David Roddy. What, if any, changes at the police department leadership would you implement if elected mayor?
Again, the people, okay, because I remember watching the news. I think Chief Roddy was on there, and there were questions about, let's see if I remember this correctly. We gave you money to deal with racial issues. He said, we spent out something else. Yeah, and you tell me how bulletproof vests and bullets can deal with racial inequity? Okay, that is the corporate apparatus in policing, okay, that we're talking about. So yes, we are going, okay, this is what we're gonna do. But Dr. Cornell West warned us of the trap of black faces in high places. So, so I'm going to be asking and interviewing candidates for chief, preferably a female of color, preferably. Okay. Have you had any trouble with, if you were whistleblowing in the department, and you got any ill treatment for that, okay. So that's what I want to find out. Okay. Have you been discriminated against? What sort of corruption issues have you noticed in the department that you'd like to change? So when I'm looking for a police chief, because I don't know that many officers, I know some, I'm going to be interviewing candidates for the new chief position. Okay. And I'm going to be looking at their profiles, like, have they had any issues with violence and misconduct? So skin tone and gender are not the only qualifications, but we definitely have to have some serious questioning amongst the officer corps as to getting a new chief, and being a black leader, black skin, it takes more than that. You actually have to have integrity. You have to fight for justice, and you have to actually know people's civil rights. The term suspicious character, it's so lazy. What does that mean? Who, what, when, why, and what? Okay. So we need to have some serious questions about some new leadership, and making sure that they have a good knowledge of the Constitution, civil rights, and willing to hold their fellow officer accountable. Another issue, talking about changing the police department, when I was running for county mayor, one of my friends was Victor Miller running for county sheriff. If you don't have the guts to go after the sheriff, and actually fight for real systemic change at that level, nothing's going to happen. So there'll be a sheriff election coming up soon, which affects all of us. So we need people that want to run for sheriff to have some real guts and gumption to really root out corruption and police violence. And the same old party line politics is not going to cut it. So I will be looking for a new chief that actually has the gumption to make changes and support any sheriff candidate who also has that same kind of vision, because I understand the political process, but I also, to get real change, you have to have real courage.
Many have questioned the conduct of activists, citing some incidents of vandalism, disruption to businesses, and confrontations to police. At the same time, others have criticized law enforcement for restricting access to public areas, for surveillance of activists on some private property, and also for the nature of some arrests. So if similar protests or unrest came during your time as mayor to the ones last year, how would you weigh restrictions for both activists and police presence? And what would you have done differently?
Well, the First Amendment guarantees us the right to peaceably assembly, not violently assembly. Dr. King made this distinction. So I would always, discourage violence and destruction of property. But you cannot be blind to the economic and social justice issues for why they're protesting. So that's generational. So I do have a strong labor rights agenda. They don't have to protest me to find me. They can call me on my phone, 423-355-9071. You don't have to protest me. Call me at home. I'll be protesting with you probably, because I've been to Black Lives Matter protest. I've marched with these folks. Okay, I'll be right there with you. You don't have to protest me. You don't have to find me. I'm on your side from the first point. Okay, because I believe in your First Amendment right to gather anywhere you want, as long as it's peaceful. You can go to Miller Park. Our taxpayer dollars paid for it. So I would restrict no one from gathering anywhere, anytime, peaceably. You can show up anytime you want. If they came down there tomorrow, it's cold, but if they wanted to, no permit, no money. If you want to show up there and do it, it belongs to you. You paid for it. Show up any way you want to. As long as you don't hurt anybody, you have the right to show. That's what's called public space. How can a government run by the public restrict public space? It makes no sense. And I will not survey, because that violates your Fourth Amendment rights. You see, because I have a copy of the Constitution. I can read it, So, we have many people that swear to defend the Constitution that didn't know what's in this book. What I happen to understand, it's unconstitutional. So I'm not going to surveil anybody, because I understand their rights. Ever. Okay? And I order the police, like, don't mess with them. Do your job. Leave them alone. Help them cross the street safely. If you see a violent act, that's one thing. But other than that, leave them the hell alone. Sorry. But seriously, though, because it's their right. And they're the taxpayer. It belongs to them. Public means it belongs to the people, not to the government, which should be the people anyway. That's what I believe. So I'm bringing that perspective. I'm taking this pocket copy of the Constitution with me. And I'm going to, before I do anything, I'm going to look in here and see if it violates someone's rights.
So this next question, I think you already answered, but we're asking all the questions the same to all of the candidates. So I'm going to go ahead and ask it.
It's okay, ma'am.
Have you received a COVID-19 vaccine? And if not, will you receive it if it's available?
Yes, I have. I am fortunate working at Erlanger Hospital. And this is a blessing. Okay. Yes, I have received it because I'm a frontline worker. And I believe everyone needs to get it ASAP. Man, woman, boy, and child. Male, female, of all ages. Now, I know that they say that the elderly are the most susceptible to getting COVID, but I can tell you most of my family ended up with it. and elderly are not getting it at the VW. They're getting hanging out with their grandkids. So social dynamics needs to play a role in this, folks. I mean, vaccinate everybody, man, woman, boy, and child, and encourage social distancing and precaution at home and at work. You can't mandate that, but the virus gets better around the family too. We got to vaccinate everybody. You know, mama's got it, son's got it, daughter's got it, hubby's got it. And another thing, if companies won't pay you because you can't substantiate you got COVID there, no one knows where you get COVID. If you get COVID, you don't know where you got it. And that's cruel. You got to compensate workers, you know, if they're off work for COVID results or they're quarantining or hospitalized with COVID. You got to pay them their FMLA 3 days or 2 weeks or a month. You got to help these folks because they're by staying home, they're saving your life. They're saving their, you know what I'm saying? So we got to protect our workers, you know, and make companies take care of us and give us hazard pay.
Have you had both shots or just the first one?
I've had both.
You've had both. Good for you.
But again, only because of I was blessed enough to work at the hospital.
Right, right. So do you believe transparency to be important in the mayor's office? And if so, will you ensure that that continues through your term? And will you grant interviews to reporters and answer their questions on a regular basis?
Yes. See, here's the deal. I'm bringing the Constitution with me. Freedom of the press. Yes. I'd love to see everybody every day. I mean, why do we have idiots that run for office to swear on the Constitution that refuse to read it and abide by it? Yes, come see me anytime. Call me on the phone. I'm being paid by you. I'm your employee. Why should you have to have troubles come to see me? I'm applying to work for you. So please come see me.
What do you think?
Every day.
Great. What do you think the relationship between the mayor and the city council should look like? And will you cultivate a relationship with council members if you're elected mayor?
You have to. However, you must never, ever compromise you're there to lead and represent the people, not big business. Now, there's a passage in the Bible, Proverbs 14 and 31. The wicked man, you know, give gifts to his rich friend and oppress the poor. He who does that, the profanes their maker. But who's kind of needy honors God. I will never support the taking of resources from the poor to give to the rich and thus affront our God. So yes, I will work with the city council, but I will not support the oppression of the poor. If they want to support that, I'm not going to. For example, a bus sub downtown or a new development. Bus sub is for the people, new development lines someone's pockets. I will be on the side of the people. Yes, I cultivate a relationship with the representatives, but not cultivate a representative with lobbyists, business people. You know, I don't play golf. I walk on a cane. I'm not going to be on a golf course cutting backwater deals. I can't play sports, no run. So don't ask me to play golf. You're not going to find me there. I can't even walk. No, I'm not putting. So there's a difference between working with the city council and the business people that have bought them out one by one. You see, because they get paid a city salary, but their campaign donations are much higher than their city salary. However, I don't have any big business contributions. I'm happy with my city salary. So it's a difference between working with them and laying down for the interests that support them.
So one final question, would you support any public money for a new stadium for the Chattanooga Lookouts? If that is requested, it has not been requested yet, I should note, but.
During The pandemic can't do that because we need every possible resource for rental assistance and food assistance. If we weren't in the pandemic, maybe, but I'm never taking away from hungry, homeless people. So I'm sorry. I don't know if I win or lose votes on this, but if long as there's homeless, cold people in wheelchairs on the streets, every resource has got to go to them. Sorry, it's not high on my list when people are hungry and homeless, and more could be so. So and I hope they understand that. But my priority is to the 180 some odd thousand Chattanoogans, and how many other people that are housing and food insecure at this moment, and we need every resources to support them. We need every available resource must go to the needy. It's bad before and it's catastrophic now. So it's only because of that reason. I like sports like anybody, but I'll never take away food out of your mouth for a baseball stadium, or take money away from helping you pay your bills or your rent or medical or domestic violence victim or what all that, because we can't eat baseballs. We can eat food.